Hi guys, my name is Zin and this is maybe Bonsai. This week the weather is cold. It's about 3-4 degrees outside and it's going to be like that for many days until the spring comes. So I am forced to work indoors again. So this week what I want to do is to repot this hibiscus. I think it's a snow queen or a fire and ice. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. It was given to me I think as a small cutting and now it's grown quite a bit. But it's in this pot that I repotted like a year and a half ago, which is not too long ago, but I don't like the way it's growing because I wanted this to be kind of a cascade, and right now it's growing into a more of a raft style. So I want to repot this into this cascade pot, and then probably prune this a lot because this has been growing all year. I haven't pruned this in a long time, so it's quite overgrown. So the first thing I need to do is that I need to put wires on this pot just so it doesn't break, because there's a, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a small crack down all the way, and then there's another crack on this side. This happened because I was going to use this pot and I wasn't careful, so I kind of tipped it and it basically just fell like this onto the concrete and it cracked. It wasn't that hard of a fall, but it's I guess it's a delicate pot. So anyway, I'm first going to kind of wire together the pot. I'm just going to put wires around it so that it will hold the soil and not kind of break out. I think eventually what I'll do is probably use epoxy and get that gold stuff to cover this up. But maybe the pot needs to be more pieces than two. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so I'll just first do that, and then I'll empty this, kind of get it out and see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. Now to fix this, I'm just going to wrap wires around it, probably just twice, and then just tie it together so that it will hold the soil and not kind of break apart. So nothing special. It's a thin wire which doesn't get used that often, and for this purpose I think it's more than enough. So I'll just wrap it around. And it's really too bad that this pot actually I'll put it here, that just kind of broke just after a fall like that. I was pretty upset with myself when it happened, but nothing I can do now. It's not tight enough. I guess it's a bit tough with these because the pot, it gets lower on the way down, gets smaller, so it's kind of hard to make it stay. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably put a rubber band just below the wire so that it doesn't slip down. Yeah, I'll get that rubber band right now. Okay, so I got the bands. Just gonna put these to the side so it's easier to get them in. I could probably just put the rubber bands on and that would probably be good enough, but I wanted something a bit stronger than just bands. Okay, so that's all I need to do. It's strong enough so it's not going to break. All right, so next step is to, I think I'm going to prune this a little bit just so it's easier to repot, because right now it's a little too crowded. And I'll keep the cascade in mind when I prune this so that I'm not going to end up with something that won't work. All right, so you might be able to see the trunk a bit. It's getting quite thick. Before, when it started, it was like half the size maybe. So I'm really happy with that. It has been flowering lately, but I took the flowers off. Like right here, you can see it's a flower bud that I took off. Because I wanted the tree to grow more. I didn't want the tree to spend energy on the flower alone. So since I'm going to do a cascade for now, I'm just going to prune this to a smaller size. Like there's a lot of extending long branches here. I'll just take those back. And I think this is a good spot for this branch because the root is over here. So if it's cascade, you know, it'll look something like that. Maybe I could push this to the top. So I'll take this back a little bit, just so it's easier to see things. And I'm looking for branches that are pointing this way for this branch. And I might prune more afterwards. There's some lower branches, but I think this is too low, so I'm going to get rid of that. And this one, take that back. And these ones, I'm not sure what to do with yet, so I'm just going to make them smaller, just to make this process easier. I'm cutting about maybe halfway, just taking most of the big tips off. And I think eventually what I want to do is, once it's in the pot, a cascade for long enough, hopefully the roots will get bigger, so I can kind of do an exposed root to make it, you know, even cascade a bit more. So hopefully that's gonna work. I've never tried that before, but I've seen other people do it, so hopefully I can eventually get there. There's this branch that's really close to the trunk. It's almost parallel coming up. This one right here. So I'm just going to get rid of that totally. Okay, so I think that's okay for now. Actually, there's another one of these kind of parallel branches. Okay, I think this is good enough for now. So I'm going to get rid of these this pile first, and then I'll rake out the soil, and then we'll see what we get. All right, so I got this big root rake, but I think it's too big for this job. So I'm going to stick with my old root rake 3000 here, which is just a fork. I'm just checking the, I think there's like, not rust, but something's there. Anyway, I'll use a smaller one, and I got a chopstick. So I'll probably start with the chopstick. I don't think this will be difficult because this hasn't been in here for that long. So it should be fairly straightforward to get everything out. I already see a couple of strong roots. Not sure if I can use them yet, but we'll see. Let's just do that. And this soil that I'm using is the one that I can reuse. And it looks like there's still a lot of pine bark in here, so you know. So what I'll do with this soil eventually is that once I clean this up, instead of throwing away, I'm just gonna leave them in a box. I'm gonna spread them out in a very thin layer, so they can dry quickly. And once they dry, I simply just sift them once to get rid of the really fine stuff, whether it's decomposing or just dust that fell in, you know. So that'll get cleaned up, and then I can basically use the soil again. You could wash them as well, you know, just do a wash beforehand. That'll work too, but, oh, there it goes. Okay, so it's quite a bit of roots within the year and a half. So, you know, it's looking pretty good. Even this shape right here of the trunk, it's pretty nice. And hopefully I could do a cascade. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's my goal. So let's just work towards that, and we'll see what happens. So let's rake all this out. So here's a look at the soil. This soil is made out of some pine bark, some zeolite, some crushed granite, and pumice. It's a very fast draining soil. It doesn't clog up even after using it for a while. And the only thing that degrades is the pine bark, which so far it hasn't degraded that much. So I can still, a lot of it still I can use. And that's what I'm told when I bought this soil, is that, you know, it can be reused, or at least 75% of it can be reused even after a very long time. The other 25% being the pine bark, which will decompose. So here's the root system. A lot of fine roots, mostly okay. And what I want to do is plant it like that. And then hopefully, so I think here, this trunk here is, I think it's too thick. It's going towards the wrong direction. I probably can't wire that over. But what I'll do, I think, is I'll take this whole thing off from the bottom here, from here, and then I'll keep this one. And this one I could develop the top of the tree. So I think that'll work. So looking at the roots, there are some really strong roots, but it's just not going to the right direction, even for a cascade. So I will do some root pruning, but I think a lot of this, some of this at least, can be used. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I need to prune the roots off of this side. It's too bad, you know, it's nice and some nice roots, but I need this to grow downwards. So the top ones needs to go, because they're not going to be, you know, I'm not going to have it on top of the soil. Just going to spray it a bit so it's not too dry. Okay, hopefully I plant it like that. So there's a big root on this side. I'm going to take this off because it turns and I can't really use it. This one's a bit stiff as well. I wonder if I could keep it or not. So I think I'll, So I'll take a bit off, but not the entire thing. These ones here, I think I can make it go down once I put it in the pot, and it'll probably be okay. And there's this really long one, which I'll take off some of it. So yeah, I don't think that much root work needs to be done. I've never planted a cascade like this where it was growing upright at first and then I have to turn it. So I'm not sure how the roots will grow, and I don't know exactly what kind of roots that we need. I know that the style I'm looking for, you know, eventually is an exposed root. So I need some roots running down. I'm just not sure the starting process of it. So that's why I'm kind of hesitating. There's a root actually coming downwards from this big root, so I'll cut it towards just after it. So hopefully this one that's going down will develop. I guess what I'll do is I'll just shorten some of these roots, and that will be it. I'm not going to take too much off. we'll let it grow in the new pot, and we'll see what happens after a couple of years. But there's some crossing roots here, to which I'll get rid of this small one. Yeah, okay. So we'll see what happens. I'll plant this and go from there, because I'm not sure what to expect here. Let me clean this up, move this to a better spot, and we'll have a clean table to do the repot. Okay, I've got my pot, and I cleaned up the table. I have the drainage screen, which I think came with the pot, and I'm just gonna drop it in. I don't even need to wire this. So I'll have to fill this pot with a lot of soil first. And this mix here again is the, there's a lot of dust coming out of this, is the reusable mix again. But this one, I think I have, let's see, I have pumice, and there's some zeolite, and then there is some basalt, and also turface, which is just safetySorb. It's used for spoiled oil spills and sucks up water basically. So let me see how this is gonna work. Yeah, okay. It does work, but it's like right on the edge of the pot. So I'll probably have to, yeah, so I think this, is so close to the edge, which it does work, but it's like, I'm right there. But eventually, I think once the roots gets pushed out, I can eventually raise it, and then it'll look a lot better in the future. But for now, this will have to do. But it looks like I need more soil. I gotta get myself a better scoop. This one's too soft. So I'm gonna do that and then fill it up. I want to get a rock to put on top. So yeah, let me just go find a piece of rock. Quite a large rock. Okay, so let's do a little bit more pruning here. If this is the angle, this I guess apex is workable. I don't have to cut it, but I think I want to cut it to use this instead, because it'll give me a little bit of taper, and this is more of a straight up, even though this has a couple of nice branches already. It's a really tough decision. I'm not sure which one to go with. I could actually take this branch here, taking off the top of these, because this one's coming towards my right. So the trunk kind of goes towards the left bit, and then it goes towards the right. I think that might be a better solution, better way to go. Of course, this one I'll have more of a dramatic change in direction. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which one is best, but I think I'm not going to second guess myself and go with my original decision of keeping the one on the right and then taking off this big one here. So that's what I'll do. I think I think usually the first decision that you make is usually the right one. There's a little bit of a small sucker type of thing coming up at the bottom. I'm just gonna get rid of that, and then I'll be taking this whole thing off. I could keep that as a cutting, but I'm not going to. There's too many tropicals already. I can't. I don't want any more. So now that that's set, I'm going to prune the actual tree a bit. There are some branches that are really low, or high in this case, I guess, but very close to the roots, which I cannot use. I'm going to clean that stuff up first. This one, I know you can't see it, but it's just a tiny branch behind. This one as well, this big one here. There it goes. Okay, so there's a divide here. This here is a branch, and then you have the main trunk here, which I did cut off near the top there, but I think in this case I'm going to use this branch as the new leader, I guess you could call it. Not really a leader, but going downwards leader. So I can take off the rest of these big ones. If I can get in there. So this gives me a little bit of taper, and I think the direction is lower, so I think I like that better. Very tough to clean up, that's for sure. Hopefully, now this starts growing downwards, it's not going to have as much vigor, I think, as the top branch, but I'm hoping it'll grow, or maybe I need to eventually redirect the vigor more towards the bottom. I'm just cleaning up some of these small branches, which I will not be using. This one might come in handy. We'll see. I'll leave that one for now. And then at the bottom here, there's a branch here, which is on the lower side of this small branch. It's quite a long branch. I think I'm going to use this here instead. I think it's a good spot for a cascade. So I'll take this off. So in this area, there's a branch coming out like this, and then it goes to the right, and then it goes to the left, the next level, and then it starts to branch out into two different branches. I think because I cut it. Now when I look at this, this towards me is the front, which is, here. So I think what I'll do is I'll take off the branch coming towards this side, because I want to keep the one that's on this side. So first I'm going to take off this small thing here, and then this branch is the one that I want to remove. There's a small branch between this branch here and then the big one down here. There's one going on this side, which I'm going to remove. It's a tiny bit of thing. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that this is coming down. This one, we'll see what happens with that, but maybe I could use it. And then there's one pad, eventually a pad I think over here, comes down, maybe another one down here, and then whatever grows in the future down there. I think that's gonna work, but this one is obviously too long. I'm gonna have to reduce that. But before I reduce it, I'm just gonna clean this area up. Just old pruning scars and stubs. So this one definitely needs to get reduced. Like right now I'm thinking I don't need this. I'm going to use the branch here towards me and then the branch over there towards you guys. And that will be enough for whatever I want to do on this, in this area. And you know, this I wouldn't need. Yeah, I think I don't need that thing at all. Just these two branches should be enough to form whatever I need. So I'm going to get rid of this altogether. There it goes. There's one branch that's on the top I'm going to remove because I'm looking for the branch that's coming towards the bottom side. It just looks better. I think for cascade it's also better. It's okay, I'll clean that up later on. There is a branch coming towards me on this side here. For now, I'll keep it. I'm not sure if I'll keep it, you know, in the future, but for now, I think I can keep it. This area, I need to take it back. I'm just trying to figure out where is the best spot. There's a branch coming on this side, which could work. There's also another one here. Does actually have a little bit of a growth already. But I think I'm going to cut it just before that because I think there's a leaf scar at the bottom here. I think that would be a better one, so that's what I'll do. And this here, so right now the branch comes out, it's got some decent movement, a little bit of movement, and then it branches to this side, and then there's a small branch on that side plus the main branch. So I think I'm going to keep the two branches on the two sides, and I'll take the center off, which is this here. And here I'm going to take this off of there, with the branch on that, and then the branch over here. Actually, I think I want to take it one more back because this one is on the downside, so I wanted this one to go. And then this branch here, I think it can stay for now. Yeah, I think this is fine because if there's a new leaf coming out here, I think it's a good direction. And down here, so this will be eventually a pad, hopefully. This down here, I could even remove this because this is really close to that, but I think I'll let this grow out a bit and, you know, make a decision in the future instead. But down here I want to remove this little thing there. This crony is a bit straight, but nothing I could do there. Hopefully I'll leave more leaves on the bottom here, just hopefully it'll grow. This is the one thing I'm not too sure about cascade, is that I'm not sure about the growth pattern, you know, because everything is, you know, lower. The stuff you want is at the lower end, so I don't know how well it will grow due to the fact that it's lower. But I think maybe the top can go. Actually, I'm going to take this leaf here, I'm going to prune that off. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to do today. It's a drastic change for this tree, and I think it's good. Lately I've been just because I went to the shows, the Toronto show, the KW show, and it kind of, I guess you can say, inspired me to do more than I'm doing now. Even with wiring or without wiring, just more different stylings. I kind of had a epiphany, not an epiphany, but like a eureka moment where I was having trouble wiring before, and I kind of discovered something probably just by watching other people do it. So I started trying to do more wires, just to get used to wiring, and plus to see how the tree can be manipulated. So yeah, and I'll show you an example of what I did later on. I'm going to water this now, but I think this is what I want for now. Hopefully this pot holds up, and yeah, I'll show you those one after I water this. Here's a look at the soil that I took out today. This is still kind of a thick layer. It's almost like an inch thick. Ideally, you want to do this at a much thinner layer where you can see kind of the bottom layer, like the bottom of the platform that this soil is on. But I don't have that big of a space right now, so this is fine. My house is quite dry, so this is gonna dry out in a day or two without a problem, and then I can sift it to get rid of all these loose roots and whatever dust that it has. And I think I've heard other people, they actually kind of wash it, just like rinse it down, which is a good idea because there's I can see a lot of these dust particles in there, so that'll get washed out. And then once you sift it, all these roots are going to be gone, and you basically have brand new soil that you can use. So that's really good. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll use this in the future sometime. So now let's take a look at the other stuff. So there it is on the bench. Oh, well, it's not really a bench, and we're looking at it from the back of the tree. So I think it looks pretty good. We'll see how it grows, but hopefully it's gonna grow stuff at the bottom, not just the top. So the other stuff I want to show was the wiring. I started messing around with it. This tree, usually this was a straight trunk, and this branch here, which is, you can't see, this used to be the leader, so it was going straight, and this used to be the side branch. And one day I was like, I think this might be after I watched the video that Nigel had about David Easterwork wiring. And then I just had a moment where I was like, why don't I just wire this down and then use the side branch as the leader, so it just perfectly divides. And I'm sure that's used regularly by other people as well, and it just never occurred to me that I can do that. I always had trouble looking at this branch as like, how am I going to wire the trunk in a way so it works with the branch? But then when doing this, it solves all that. Like it makes it so much easier. I just had a moment like, oh, why don't I just do this instead? So that's what I did on this one. And then I think even last week I was doing the wiring. That trunk was too thick, but And then I kind of modified this tree here. I just put on some really heavy wire to bend the trunk because it was too straight before, and part of the tree didn't have any leaves. So then I bend it in a way that the place that doesn't have any branches coming out is at the bottom of the tree, kind of, instead of the top. So eventually I think this tree will be like that on an angle, maybe something like that, instead of like this. So yeah, I'm just trying things out. It's not the best wiring job. You can see there's tons of space in between, but this wire is quite strong. Like I can't bend it that well. That's why there's so much space over there. But for now I have what I need, so it's not a big deal. But I'm just messing around with the wire more now, and seeing the results is kind of cool. As you can see, all my stuff indoors. I moved it in. I'm trying to use all the space here around the window. This is the willow leaf ficus, which the leaves are basically just falling off. Once I brought it in, and it's just not enough light. My light is not strong enough to keep up the foliage. The seed for the $50 bonsai challenge, which is a sensitive plant. I took one of them and I actually did plant it over here. Just a couple of days ago, so nothing yet, but I think eventually it's gonna it's gonna sprout, or at least I hope so. This was a cutting that I took from Nigel's house. There was a you know, the clump mall ficus, the big one. So I put it in here. This actually had a long branch all the way up to this tall, and it started growing new leaves, which I know it rooted. But then there was nothing between the leaf at the top, which is like a feet above, and the trunk over here. It was just like a kind of a boring straight branch, and I couldn't do that. So I just, and you know what? I'm gonna take it off here and see what grows. If it dies, it dies. I just took a risk. But I can see some small growth at the bottom here. It's already kind of sprouting. It actually had a lot of vigor. I couldn't believe how much vigor this had. Just after like a week or 2 weeks, it started growing new leaves. So I'm pretty sure it rooted, so it's not going to be, it won't be any problems growing. But you know, as you can see, this is a hard cut for a ficus benjamina, and sometimes when you do that, they just die. But I am seeing growth at the bottom. I am hoping growth at around this area, but I'm not seeing anything yet, so we'll see what happens with that. And everything else is good. This is Nigel's crown of thorn cuttings that he gave me. Everything is going, you know, nothing died, so that's great. My Brazilian rain tree here, I did also apply some really sloppy wiring, as you can see, but all I wanted to do was, because I cut this here, and it was kind of growing in a way where nothing is going up, it's just flat. And so what I did was, this was a branch that's going horizontally, and I wired this up just so this can be the new leader. That was the only purpose. That's why the wiring is so sloppy. You know, whatever, it doesn't matter for now. I just want something to go up so I can, you know, grow the tree, because it needs to be bigger than what it is now. Other than that, I have a cutting here. This was one of the cuttings that I did the tourniquet on a garden tree. So where I put a plastic zip tie over the whole year, and then it had a pretty big bulge at the bottom. Now you're supposed to put this in the garage in somewhere that's cold, and then on a heat mat, which I do have it in the garage. But I found the heat mat was like barely warm. You know, it wasn't that hot, at least to my touch. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to try it indoors for one of them, because I do have more than one of these. So I'm going to try one indoors and see what happens, if anything happens. And nothing happens, then, you know, whatever, not a big deal. But there's 3 more in the garage. It's in pure pumice, and they're on a heat mat. I just, I don't know if it's going to work. I'm told this is a good way to do it, so we'll see what happens with that. And everything else here looks good. This is a small, what do you call it, a dwarf, some kind of vine, or ivy, sorry, probably the Boston ivy or something, but you know, it's tiny, right, compared to the regular one here. You can see how big of a difference it is. So yeah, I have basically moved all my operations indoors. I do still have trees outdoors because it's not too cold yet. We're in like -1 or 2 every day now. But I think once it hits -4 to 5 consistently, I will be bringing a lot of this stuff, including the Japanese maples. That's pretty much everything that's not in the ground currently. So that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.